Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup, the show where we round up all, and I do mean all, of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies. It's actually not a good outro or intro because I don't literally get all of the latest news. In fact, I'm quite selective. In fact, since I only do this show once a week, it's very filtered down. There's a lot of stuff that I don't cover. I don't know why. I say all. Should I change my intro or should I just continue forward? Like a bull in a china shop. I think that is what I'm going to do. Let's get to the first story. So first up, we got Morena Baccarin confirming that Vanessa will be in Deadpool 3. This is coming from CBR. It did work out. Morena Baccarin finished my shooting days on it already. I think the film is now underway again after the strike, and I think it's going to be quite good. Yeah, I think fans are in for a fun surprise. So, yeah, it seems like Morena Baccarin is in fact going to be in Deadpool 3. I think this is a good thing. The Deadpool movies are kind of interesting because Deadpool is, at least from what I've seen in like cartoons and stuff and video games, he's not exactly a sincere character, right? He's very he's very jokey and whatnot. And Vanessa actually plays a very important role in the Deadpool movies because she really is the character that grounds him, and his relationship with her is what actually makes those movies have those emotional beats. So I actually think that she's a very important character. So even if she's not in a lot of Deadpool 3, it doesn't look like she's going to be in a ton of it if she's already finished shooting her part. But I think that her presence is actually rather important for the movies. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how much of it she's in. And yeah, hopefully there's another sex scene because why not? All right, next story. It looks like the Silk Amazon show is not dead. It's coming from Deadline. The writer's room for Silk Spider Society is tentatively slated to reconvene in mid to late January, sources tell Deadline. According to sources, Amazon Studios brass have been evaluating the script material produced so far by the writing team. The tentative writer's room start date is contingent on that and may change, I hear. So this comes after another story that we talked about a couple weeks ago where Amazon was actually being threatened by SAG-AFTRA, or no, not SAG-AFTRA, the Writers Guild. What is it again? The WGA. Yeah, they were being threatened by the WGA to be sued because as part of the writers strike and then the writers deal, all the shows that were set to be written before the strike had to start up again, right? Like you couldn't just like abandon a show that was going to be written before the strike and just can it for no reason, like can the writing process. So and Amazon was just kind of stalling on it for whatever reason, but it seems like it's moving forward now, so that's good. I guess Amazon is not gonna get sued. And I don't really understand the deal. I wonder if the deal only really honors the writing process, and if Amazon is looking to can this show for whatever reason, can they do it like after the writing process is done and say that it's for like creative reasons? I'm not entirely sure, but as of right now, the show is back on. I don't really know much about Silk, so I can't say I'm like super excited about the show beyond just the fact that it's a spider person show instead of the Sony nonsense that they do in the movies where it's just like random villains that don't have Spider-Man in them. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm definitely interested in this and Spider-Man Noir. Definitely more excited about Spider-Man Noir only because that just inherently seems more interesting and unique. I don't know what makes Silk unique from the other Spider people, but yeah. Also, the fact that I don't think I've ever talked about it. The fact that it's called Silk Spider Society does make me wonder if this is somehow going to be like a Spider-Verse movie, or are there going to be other spider people other than Silk? That's kind of an interesting thing. So I don't know. We'll see. Next story. DC content is coming to Tubi. Is coming from Deadline. So these are just a bunch of the examples. So the movies like The Batman and Suicide Squad and Black Adam, those are coming in 2024. As of right now, you can actually stream older DC movies like Batman 89, Batman Returns, Superman the movie, even like CW shows like Batwoman. You have older shows like Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman is coming on December 31st. And even animated movies like Batman Death in the Family, Justice League, Flashpoint Paradox, those are coming sometime in December. So it seems like Warner Brothers Discovery is strapped for cash. And they're doing what is arguably the most desperate move that you can do in entertainment, in film, which is selling your movies off to Tubi. Now, here's the thing. Is this desperate? Yeah. But is it smart as well? I mean, yeah. Like, a lot of these movies aren't necessarily making a profit on Max. And I think that's a problem that a lot of these streaming services are running into, to where they're spending money on movies, they're not doing as well in theaters, and then they just get dumped on their own subscription services that people are that Warner Brothers fans are like already subscribed to. So these movies aren't necessarily drawing in new subscriptions to Max. Like, for example, if Warner Brothers, or if you're a DC fan, you're subscribed to Max, right? Like, there's already DC content on Max. You're probably already going to be subscribed to it. So like, all of this shit is not necessarily making you subscribe to Max, because you're probably already subscribed to it. And if you're not a DC fan, then guess what? None of this is going to make you subscribe to Max. And even future content, right? Like whenever the Batman Part 2 comes out, it's like, that's not going to draw in a ton of new subscriptions, probably. I mean, obviously there are people that will like subscribe to Max, watch it, then probably unsubscribe, and they might need new content. But that's the thing, like, even with that being the case, my guess is that the way that they're going to start doing things is, if stuff that is like DC stuff is probably going to come to Max for a while and then eventually get to Tubi. So I guess what I'm saying is that this content is already, like, there's already so much DC content on Max that there's a ton of DC fans already subscribed to Max. And then after a period of time, even new DC content is going to stop getting more subscribers. So you might as well license it out after a certain point. And I mean, just in general, post-theatrical revenue is just, it's not as prevalent nowadays, because physical media is down, and people are just wanting to stream stuff. So I don't know. I think this is smart. I think that, we have also seen DC start licensing their content to Netflix. Like, people are like clowning on Warner Brothers Discovery, and yes, are they probably desperate? Yeah, but I also think that this is just smart. Get extra revenue, get some extra revenue generated from these movies that are just kind of sitting there on Max, not doing much for you. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. And obviously, as a consumer, this is a fucking win. Like, the fact that you can just watch stuff on Tubi for free. Yeah, you have to watch ads, but still. I mean, obviously this is good for the consumer as well. All right. Next up, Vincent D'Onofrio is talking about Daredevil. So, just a tweet here. Daredevil Born Again star Vincent D'Onofrio says the series will for sure be under the Marvel Spotlight banner. Banner, not spanner. It's the same tone and feel. The attention that the bosses are giving to it is extraordinary. Marvel Spotlight focuses on grounded, character-driven stories. So, Vincent D'Onofrio. And by the way, the reason why it's a tweet is because it's a podcast, but I don't think this podcast was out yet when I covered this story, so I added the tweet. So it's not just a random guy. It's their podcast. They're quoting it from the podcast that they recorded. Whatever. So Vincent D'Onofrio is saying that Daredevil is gonna have, or Born Again is now gonna have the same tone and feel as the original Daredevil, and it's under the Marvel Spotlight banner, which I think is interesting because when they announced the Marvel Spotlight banner, they were saying that, shows under the Marvel Spotlight banner, it's gonna be standalone and it's not gonna connect as much into the MCU. But it's like, so we have Echo and Daredevil Born Again, when it's like Echo was in Hawkeye. You can't tell me that they don't connect. We see Kingpin is in Hawkeye. You can't tell me, or is in Echo. He was in Hawkeye. He's going to be in Daredevil Born Again. So obviously Echo and Daredevil are connecting to each other. Daredevil himself appears in the Echo trailer. So I thought Daredevil Born Again, Daredevil appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home. Like, I think that as more of these Marvel Spotlight shows are being announced, it is kind of feeling like that part of the pitch was kind of capped, where it's not so much that these shows aren't going to connect to the wider MCU, but it might just be the case that they don't like you don't have to have watched it. You don't have to have watched all that other stuff that it connects to in order to understand it, right? Like, I think that's the most charitable interpretation. But also the fact that Daredevil is going to be under the Marvel Spotlight banner definitely makes me think that it's going to be rated MA, TVMA. I mean, if being under the Marvel Spotlight banner awards you that right as it does to Echo, then I mean, yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't do it with Daredevil, especially if after like the backlash, and the reports of the original sort of draft of the show not feeling like the original show, and now them wanting to fix that. I can't imagine at this point that this isn't TVMA. So I don't know. Dare I get excited about Daredevil Born Again? I mean, I want to. I love Daredevil. But at the end of the day, we are just going to have to wait and see. All right, next up. Barry Keoghan, he teased the Joker. He teased Joker appearing in the Batman Part 2. I've decided to add video to this show, so we're going to hit play. Hopefully I prepared it.
Batman 2 is expected to start up in the new year. Should we
I didn't mean
expect
to
to
start
see
it,
you?
but
Anything you can tease about that?
Hey, I can't really say anything about that, my man, but it would be exciting, wouldn't it, to see the Joker come to life again, eh?
Listen, I get it. I agree. I hope this
My smile says all. You know what I mean?
So there you have it. Barry Keoghan not so subtly teasing the Joker appearing in the Batman Part 2. I mean, I if you were to have put a gun to my head, a gun to my dick, would I have said that? And if you asked me if I thought the Joker was going to be in the Batman Part 2, I mean, yeah, like you wouldn't like straight up show him at the end of the first one if you weren't going to bring him into the second one. Now, is he going to be the main villain? I don't know about that necessarily. Only because like the discussion around the Batman was already like, is it better than the Dark Knight? Blah. Like that is the immediate comparison that people want to make. If you're Matt Reeves, are you really that big of a Giga Chad to be like, yeah, that's right, I am going to make the Joker the main villain of my second movie? I mean, maybe based if so, but I don't think he's going to be the main villain. I think he's probably just going to be like a side character that's maybe doing stuff in the background. Maybe he like just appears in a couple of scenes, and I think I think they start building him up to probably be like the main antagonist in maybe the third one, or like whatever the end game is of this whole Matt Reeves Batman universe. But for sure, I do think he's going to show up in the second one, and I do think he's going to do like probably like super impactful stuff. Like maybe he kills a character, maybe he kills Gordon or something that makes it be like, oh damn, the Joker's here, he's doing stuff, but he's not necessarily the main antagonist. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I could absolutely be wrong, and maybe he is just straight up the main antagonist, and Matt Reeves says, "Fuck you, Nolan. I'm gonna do it better this time." But I mean, Barry Keoghan all but confirmed that he is gonna appear in part two, just because he didn't verbally confirm it, but every possible way he could hint at it, he did. So good on him. All right, let's move on to the next story. Let's talk about Marvel's 2024 animated schedule. Coming from CBR. The occasion marked Eyes of Wakanda. Oh, this is from like a press conference or whatever. The occasion marked Eyes of Wakanda's first ever reveal with a brief description. Throughout Wakandan history, brave warriors have been tasked to travel the world, retrieving dangerous vibranium artifacts. This is their story. Marvel Studios made the Eyes of Wakanda reveal alongside confirmation that the X-Men 97 and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, previously titled Spider-Man Freshman Year, animated series were still coming to Disney+. Both series will finally arrive in 2024. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't really... So, I looked up the original Marvel press release and, this article here from CBR. I actually can't really tell if Eyes of Wakanda is also coming out in 2024, because the way it's written, it's describing X-Men 97 and your so it says Marvel Studios made the Eyes of Wakanda reveal alongside confirmation that X-Men 97 and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series were still coming to Disney+. And then it says both series will finally arrive in 2024. Is it when it's saying both series, I can't tell if it's talking about X-Men 97 and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, or if it's talking about the Eyes of Wakanda and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So I can't we know that X-Men 97 is coming out in 2024, but I can't tell if and that sentence for sure states that that Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is coming in 2024, but I can't tell if it is confirmed that the Eyes of Wakanda show is also coming out in 2024. Either way, maybe I'm just retarded. I don't know. You let me know in the comments down below. I mean, I am, but let me know about that situation specifically. But either way, that Eyes of Wakanda show sounds interesting. It sounds like that one could actually be a part of the MCU. The more we learn about Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the more it really does seem like that's not going to be in the MCU. And X-Men 97 also seems like it's not necessarily going to be in the MCU. I mean, they're probably going to be in the MCU in terms of how everything is in the multiverse is in the MCU. But the Eyes of Wakanda could actually be in our Earth 616 or whatever, because it could be a prequel. So yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in Eyes of Wakanda. I think that could be cool. Honestly, and then as far as X-Men 97, I've never seen the X-Men animated series, so I can't say that I'm all that excited about it, but I will watch the X-Men the animated series before X-Men 97. But honestly, out of all three of these, I'm most excited for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I really want another great Spider-Man cartoon. We haven't had one in a really long time, since Spectacular Spider-Man, really. I mean, I enjoyed Ultimate Spider-Man, but it's not on Spectacular's level. Okay, and the fact that this isn't really going to be in our Earth 616 continuity, and it's going to be allowed to just kind of do its own thing. Love the art style. I think it looks super unique. I don't know. I'm really hoping this is great. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Speaking of Spider-Man, looks like we might end up getting a Spider-Verse game. So there was an Insomniac Games hack that heavily indicates the existence of such a game. It's coming from WCCF Tech. A Spider-Verse game could be in development by Insomniac Games. Judging from a recent leaked document highlighting the studio's future projects, this document mentions the studio's future projects, which include the predictable Spider-Man 3 and a game called Spider-Blank, whose name is cut off. Another part of the leaked document, however, mentions Spider-Verse outright, talking about additional support for it. This is an interesting statement, as it may suggest how this game is actually the multiplayer project in the works at the developer. So, yeah, there were other rumors and other reports stating that Insomniac is making a multiplayer game, and the leaked documents indicate that there is a Spider-Verse project. So, putting two and two together, it seems like Insomniac is developing a multiplayer, probably live service Spider-Verse game where either you either you can play as like different Spider-Verse characters. Maybe you're going to be able to create your own Spider-Man. And I have to say, I'm not all that jazzed about this. Um, First of all, we're gonna talk about this later, but I Insomniac making a multiplayer game does in fact take away resources from a potential single player game. Simply does. That is how it works. When you take a studio that makes single player games and you take part of those resources to make a multiplayer game, that means you are getting less single player games. That is how that works. And I'm just not a fan of multiplayer games. I don't want multiplayer comic book games. I want story driven, single player focused, story focused, single player games. I'm kind of repeating myself there, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So I don't want this from Insomniac. Now, hey, I'm sure there are people that do really want a multiplayer Spider-Man game, but I think we've seen in the past that this is also just something that doesn't usually work out well. Like taking people that make single player games and trying to force them to make a multiplayer game hasn't worked out all that well. We're gonna get to The Last of Us Online later in the show. We can look at Square Enix's Avengers game. We can look at what's probably going to happen with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's just like when you have a developer that is great at one thing, you have to let them make that thing. Like that's just a smart thing to do. And honestly, I've also been this is something that I've just been noticing, and this is my a theory that I have. I actually don't think it's smart to make a live service game based off of a popular IP. At the very least, if you're hoping for Fortnite levels of success. Because the problem with a live service game is that those are games that you want literally everybody playing. And when you tie it to a popular IP, you're inherently going to be keeping people away from your game, right? Like when you look at Fortnite is so soulless and bland that it is inherently able to be appealing to literally everyone, right? Like you can partner with whatever property you want to draw in as many people as possible, and it just kind of works. That's not really the case with a Spider-Verse game. It's not the case with Marvel's Avengers. It's not going to be the case with Suicide Squad. It's like you have to like DC if you want to play the Suicide Squad game. You even have to like the Suicide Squad if you want to play the Suicide Squad game. You have to be a Spider-Man fan if you want to play the Spider-Verse game. You have to be an Avengers fan if you want to play the Avengers game. Or at the very least, those are the people that are going to be attracted to it. And when you're making an online service game, is that really something you want to do? So I just say all this because, or I say all this just to say that this just doesn't seem to be the smart way to go about this. I understand that Sony wants to make live service games. I think it would be stupid for them not to try to make live service games. But if you're going to make a live service game, make a new team, a new studio that is built from the ground up to make live service games. Don't take your premier single player studios that make amazing games and have them make the live service games. It's just not a good recipe for success. And obviously it seems like they're learning this maybe, because we'll get to The Last of Us Online later, but we're here now, and these are my thoughts on this story. So listen, if the game comes out and it's fun and everybody loves it, I'll shut up It is what it is. But I gotta call it like I see it. I'm not inherently jazzed about this. Although I'm also not surprised about it as well because I have the Spider Bot here. The Spider-Verse was teased in Spider-Man 2, so it's not entirely surprising that this is happening. Although I do have to question how many fucking games are Insomniac working on right now. Like, we have a Spider-Man 3, which was also confirmed in the leaked documents. They're making Wolverine. It also looks like they're probably making a Ratchet and Clank game. There was also like a potential Ratchet and Clank project teased in those documents. Are we getting another Miles spin-off game? Right? Like, if you look at the other thing that was teased from Spider-Man 2, it looks like we might be getting a Miles and Silk game potentially in between Spider-Man, like before Spider-Man 3. Or are they going to try to jam in Miles and Silk and Peter into Spider-Man 3? I kind of feel like you would probably want to build up Silk before you get to Spider-Man 3. I don't know. Like, how many fucking games are these people making? Insomniac, insane developers, like, you know what, gripes aside, they are actually, like, incredible. I can't believe that they make as many games as they do. But yeah, that's what I feel about the Spider-Man game. I'm not going to fucking go on and on about it. Next story. Captain America 4 has a new screenwriter. This is coming from Deadline. Captain America: Brave New World has hired Matthew Orton to pen additional scenes and material. Orton will work on material that will be shot in material that will be shot in additional photography, which will take place in spring/summer of 2024. We understand. So, yeah, basically, the new Captain America reshoots are going to be happening in midsummer. Now, the movie comes out I think on February 2nd of 2025, so that does seem a little potentially late in the game before your release date, although if it is additional photography, it's not like they're shooting the whole movie, so it's that part is probably fine in terms of time-wise. And this does kind of confirm a thing that I was suspecting, because earlier reports were saying that, they're wanting to do additional photography because they want to make the action scenes better. And I was kind of like, Like, I'm sure that's true as well. But my guess is that there are also probably story issues. This kind of confirms my my thoughts on that. That yeah, they're bringing in a guy to rewrite some stuff. Now, this Matthew Orton guy, I'm not familiar with most of his work, but he did work on Moon Knight. Now, you might hear the fact that he worked on Moon Knight and go, ew, poo-poo, caca, I didn't really like Moon Knight that much. Me either. But the episode that he wrote was episode 5, which, if you'll remember, is the episode with all the flashbacks that tell Moon Knight's backstory. That episode was fucking amazing. And this is the guy that wrote that episode specifically. So, I mean, listen. The one thing that we can say right now is that Marvel is clearly making an exerted effort to bring back the quality control in the MCU. We've seen them outright scrap Daredevil Born Again and remake and redo it. We're seeing them just go, you know what? We're delaying all our movies out of 2024 to make sure they're the best that they can be. I know that we're all doom and gloom when it comes to the MCU, and rightfully so. You know, we've been getting mediocre to bad movies and Disney Plus shows for a long time at this point. I mean, there is a massive chunk of the MCU that is just underwhelming, to say the least. So, while, yes, we are in a bad spot right now, at least they are very clearly and explicitly trying to get better. So, we'll see. I mean, listen, I after the Marvels, I'm like, I don't know how many bad MCU movies and projects the franchise can take. So all I can say is that I hope that this additional photography is all this movie needs. I hope that all it really needs is just some touch-ups and whatnot. And I want it to be good. I actually really liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought it was actually I think it's one of the better MCU shows. And I thought that Sam's sort of arc of discovering what it means for him to be Captain America, like I found that to be super compelling. And I want this movie to be great. It's like I want this to be as the next Winter Soldier. I really do. So I really love this character. I really love Anthony Mackie in the role. So hoping for the best. We're being positive this episode, except for the Spider-Verse thing. We're being positive in this episode. Okay. Moving on. Another positive story, I guess. The Death Stranding movie is being made by A24. So this is coming from Video Games Chronicle. A24 was born into this world about 10 years ago. Their presence is singular within the industry. They are like no other, Kojima said in a statement released today. The films they are delivering to the world are high in quality and very innovative. There are a lot of game adaptation films out there, but what we are creating is not just a direct translation of the game, Kojima continued. The intention is that our audience will not only be fans of the games, but our film will be for anyone who loves cinema. We are creating a Death Stranding universe that has never been seen before, achievable only through the medium of film. It will be born. Jesus fucking Kojima. I have been attracted to their creations, and they have even inspired my own work. Their innovative approach to storytelling aligns with what Kojima Productions has been doing for the last 8 years. Now we are making a Death Stranding movie together. So, basically, obviously, A24 is making it. Kojima is also confirming that this is not going to be a straightforward adaptation of the Death Stranding video game, but that this movie is going to be just in the universe of Death Stranding. It is now a universe, a shared universe. So I think this is cool. I think this is the way to go as well. Like, when you have games that maybe aren't directly translatable to film, I think that it is smart to just be like, hey, this isn't a direct adaptation of the game. It's just another thing in the universe, right? Fallout is doing this, where you probably can't make a direct adaptation of any of the Fallout games just because they're choice-based like RPGs, and it's hard to make like a direct adaptation of something like that. So yeah, you just make the show take place like decades apart from Fallout 4, and you just let it do its own thing in that universe. I think that's really smart, and I think it's really smart to do this here. Although I'm not sure, I haven't played Death Stranding. I don't know if it's super translatable to film. And yeah, as far as Kojima partnering with A24, I think that makes a lot of sense. A24 they've said that they're going to be trying to get into like more blockbustery commercial films and whatnot. And I think Kojima is the perfect match, where it is a name brand, but it is also like an auteur game maker. So yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited about it. Maybe I'll play Death Stranding at some point as well. All right. The Last of Us Online, previously known as The Last of Us Factions, has been canceled. It's coming from Naughty Dog themselves. The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. We have more than one ambitious, brand new single-player game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog. So, yeah, this is, I know it sucks to say this, because obviously there are people that have been working on this game for years, and we're not going to be able to see their art come to fruition. But I gotta call it like I see it. As a consumer, I am happy that Naughty Dog is moving in this direction. I don't want live service Naughty Dog games. They make some of the best single player games in the world. Like, no studio is really on the level of Naughty Dog when it comes to linear, third-person, narrative-driven games. Nobody else does it like Naughty Dog. Like, maybe you didn't like The Last of Us Part 2. You have to admit that nobody else makes games like them, right? Like the Plague Tale games are great. They're not The Last of Us. They're not Uncharted. Nobody else does it like Naughty Dog. I don't want them to just make be another live service. I just don't want that. So it sucks for the developers that were working on it, but I can't help but say that I am happy that this is the outcome. And I'm happy to see here that they're making 2 new single player games. Well, I assume that one of those is going to be The Last of Us Part 3, just because they're probably, I mean, I actually disagree with most people when they say that The Last of Us Part 2 calls for a sequel, right? Because it ends with Ellie seemingly on a bad note and that they'd want to resolve that. But in my opinion, I actually think that The Last of Us Part 2 resolves just fine. Like, when you look at the first Last of Us, and I guess I'm going to spoil the 2 games, so if you haven't played them, then fuck off. Or actually, I put timestamps in my videos. You can just move on to another, to the other segment. But when you look at the end of The Last of Us Part 1, I would argue that The Last of Us Part 1 ends on a much more dour note than The Last of Us Part 2, because it ends with Joel having to lie to Ellie and you knowing that relationship is going to go downhill, right? Like, people are like, The Last of Us Part 1 ends in such an ambiguous manner. It's like, no, it fucking doesn't. Go back and watch the last cutscene of that game. Ellie clearly does not believe Joel. That relationship was obviously going to come to a head. Like, the idea that people are mad about Ellie being mad at Joel in The Last of Us Part 2 blows my fucking mind, as if that isn't the obvious way that story was going at the end of The Last of Us Part 1. But anyways, when you get to The Last of Us Part 2, the tragedy happens at the beginning of the fucking game. The ending of The Last of Us Part 2 is actually rather hopeful, right? Like, this idea that, yes, tragedy can befall you, and people that you love can hurt you. And, you know, your relationships with your loved ones may be strained even when they die, and you weren't able to repair that relationship when they were alive. But that doesn't have to be the end of it. You can still find love for those that hurt you after their death, right? Like, Ellie can still forgive Joel after his death, right? Like, her whole journey throughout that game wasn't even necessarily because he died. It was because she wasn't able to fix their relationship, right? It was because Abby stole Ellie's chance at repairing the bridge with Joel. And that ending is actually rather hopeful, because you realize that she can still forgive Joel even after death. She can still remember the good times that he had with her. She can still remember that they agreed to try to do it. She can still hold the happy memories, be what she thinks of when she thinks of Joel, and not, you know, the golfing session. So, in my opinion, The Last of Us Part 2 actually ends on a rather good note, and I don't think that anything needs to be resolved. Now, can you make a Last of Us Part 3? Obviously. And I think they will, but I don't think they need to. But I guess I'm saying all this to say that I'm glad that they're saying that they're also working on another game, because hopefully that other game is a new IP. You know? It feels like they've been making just The Last of Us and Uncharted for like the past decade. As much as I love The Last of Us and Uncharted, The Last of Us Part 2 is my favorite video game of all time. I would like to see them do something new as well. So, and yeah, obviously I'd rather see them do something new instead of fucking The Last of Us live service bullshit. But 'tis just me. Let me know if you were personally excited for The Last of Us online. All right. Now let's actually talk about something rather serious. there's been an update on the Jonathan Majors situation. Now, I got this. I'm going to read an excerpt from the Deadline article. And I will just say, I'm not going to talk about all of the details just because there's a lot of it. A lot of it is still kind of ambiguous. Like, the case has to just resolve itself, right? And well, okay, hold on. Let me be clear with my language. There is a lot of information there, but it's still not really clear what all of it means regarding Jonathan Majors' guilt or innocence regarding the charges. Right, whether or not he like physically beat, or I guess I should say assaulted, I think, his girlfriend. A lot of it is stuff like, well, there's video showing him trying to run away from the car, and it's like that stuff is kind of ambiguous, and he's like pushing her into the car, and it's like, is that in of itself proof that he hit her, or is it proof that he was trying to get away from the situation? That stuff is just still kind of up in the air. We have to let the court case play out. So I don't necessarily want to comment on all of that yet, but I think that there is one text message exchange that I think is enough to potentially warrant Marvel making a decision regarding keeping him on as Kang. And by the way, I also just want to say that's the main reason why we're talking about this on the show, is because this is a show that talks about like comic book movie news and whatnot. And like, I'm not fucking qualified to talk about most of it, like serious topics like these. But because it does impact the movies that I talk about, I do feel like I have to comment on it. So I also want to throw that out there. So there is a text message exchange that I want to go through. And because I think that it is pertinent, and I think it is probably enough for Marvel to potentially make a decision. So all that caveating out of the way, let's get into it. So I'm going to read through a text message exchange between Jonathan Majors and his girlfriend. Got this from Deadline. This is starting with Majors. I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital, Majors wrote. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation. Even if you do lie and they suspect something. I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital, Majors wrote. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you... Oh, I am so sorry. I fucked up the... making this fucking PNG. I am so sorry. Okay. Yeah, so... even if you do lie and they suspect something. Jabari responded, I will tell the doctor I bumped my head if I go. I'm going to give it one more day, but I can't sleep and need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I want to tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you? Part of Jabari's next message was redacted, but she wrote, I will not go to the doctor if you don't feel safe with me doing so. I promise I would never mention you, but I understand your fear. Majors wrote, last night I considered killing myself versus coming home, and I will probably kill myself. And I probably will kill myself. It's not really contemplating anymore. I'm a monster. I'm a horrible man, not capable of love. I am killing myself soon. I've already put things in motion. So, obviously, the court case is about Jonathan Majors, potentially beating his girlfriend in the back of that taxi or whatever, or that taxi. And we still have to wait to see if that specific charge, if he gets charged with that specific charge. However, what I am seeing in this text message exchange is Jonathan Majors acknowledging that his girlfriend was hurt and actively discouraging her from seeking medical attention. Again, maybe the charges don't end up sticking. That's possible. That doesn't change the fact that Jonathan Majors is a scumbag. Actively discouraging your girlfriend from seeking medical attention when they have been injured is a scumbag thing to do. Like I can't in my mind there's no rationalizing it. Like there's no both sidesing that situation. That is a scumbag thing to do. Is it criminal? Not necessarily, I don't think. But is it manipulative? Absolutely. And the ending bit where he's like where he's having like suicidal tendencies, that is absolutely a manipulative thing to do, right? To draw people in closer, right? Saying that you're suicidal so that like you're trying to convince somebody to do something. So you try to say that you're suicidal and in order to get the person to like want to stop you from doing that. So how can I stop you from doing that? Well, okay, I'll do what you told me to do. That is a manipulative thing to do. And I want to be clear about something. You can be manipulative even if you're not like trying to be, right? Like maybe he actually does feel suicidal or whatever. Doesn't change the fact that that is a manipulative thing to do when trying to convince your girlfriend not to go to the fucking hospital when she's been injured. So all that being said, I've seen enough to say that Jonathan Majors is a scumbag. Maybe the specific things that he's being charged for, maybe he ends up being innocent on those charges. As far as I'm concerned, Jonathan Majors is a scumbag. Okay. Is this enough for Marvel to say that they don't want to work with him? I think it would be reasonable for them to make that decision. You know, I don't necessarily think that just because you're kind of an asshole, I don't think that you should necessarily be like fired from your job necessarily, but when you're a public figure, when you are the front-facing, actor, kind of being positioned to represent the MCU moving forward, at least for this next phase, I should say. Yeah, it is absolutely reasonable for Marvel to not want this guy to be that guy. I think it's reasonable, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I do think that he's going to be recast. Or I should say, if they move forward with Kang, because we've talked on the show about the fact that they might not even move forward with Kang. Although it does, like, they hired a new writer for the Kang Dynasty, so it does seem like the Kang Dynasty is moving forward, although maybe they changed the title and the premise of the thing, but it doesn't matter. If they move forward with Kang, at this point, I don't think that it's going to be Jonathan Majors. That's how I'm calling it. That's what I think is going to happen. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see. So, yeah, very disturbing stuff to read. I highly encourage you to read the Deadline article to get all the other information, because there is other stuff there that also, quite frankly, doesn't paint Jonathan Majors in a particularly good light either. There's a lot that I again, there's a lot to cover in like one segment of my show here, but there's a portion of the article where he talks about how his wife needs to be more submissive to him because he's a fucking representative of the black community, and that she needs to be a Michelle Obama to his Barack Obama, which is like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, listen, in my eyes, the guy's a scumbag. Okay, it's kind of like the Andrew Tate situation, where it's like, Maybe they don't get charged with sex trafficking by the end of the by the end of the court trial or whatever. But like Andrew Tate self-admittedly scammed men, lied to lonely men, took advantage of them by tricking them into thinking they had relationships with their sex workers. Like the Tates did that. Maybe they don't get charged with human trafficking. They are disgusting scumbag scammers. And it was only like a year ago on the fucking Nelk podcast that Andrew Tate was bragging about it. And like I don't think he's actually like ever apologized for it. So similar to that situation where it's like the Tates are a scumbag. Sex trafficker or not, they are a scumbag. Whether or not Jonathan Majors actually gets charged with like assaulting his girlfriend in the back of that taxi, whether or not that actually happens, Jonathan Majors is a manipulative scumbag that tried to convince his girlfriend not to go to the hospital when he was injured or when she was injured, just to protect his own reputation. That's all I got to say on that situation. Let's end on some happy news. Why don't we? Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Guys, the Percy Jackson show, it actually has a good Rotten Tomatoes score. It's at a 96%, guys. Listen. I've needed this show to be good. I've needed it. I don't know. I don't think I can handle like my one childhood property in the MCU is going to ashes. I need my favorite childhood book series to have a good adaptation. I need this for my soul, guys. So let's actually look through some of these reviews. Rob Owen from the Pittsburgh Tribune says, "Finally, a successful Percy Jackson adaptation, courtesy of Disney+." Christy Cronin from Raising Asians? Is that White Asians? I don't know what that is. A better adaptation, period. I'm fish hooked and rooting for Perseus. Good on you, Christy. Emma Jane Betts from the Digital Fix, she says, "Despite a slow opening, Percy Jackson and the Olympians' first season gives fans a gripping story that has the potential to become a new fantasy hit." You're goddamn right it does, Emma! Rihanna Stark from Geeks of Color. "Percy Jackson and the Olympians is the perfect adaptation. It's faithful to the source material, but still leaves room for surprises. It's a heartfelt adventure that will get even the most jaded viewers hooked." Oh my god. Francisca Tinoco from We Got This Covered. "Just like its protagonist, Disney's Percy Jackson suffers from some growing pains, but its good intentions and genuine love for the lore eventually help it find its footing. I'll take it." Kaylee Dre from the AV Club. "Uncle Rick has worked hard to give us something that adheres to the spirit of his original works. Something fast-paced and bonkers in the best possible way, and thoroughly entertaining." Hell yeah, Kaylee! Pedrana Radovic from Polygon. "With a stellar cast bringing the cherished characters to life, it seems like a dream come true for Percy Jackson fans." Oh my god! Poppy Platt from the Daily Telegraph. He's British. Or she's British? I don't know. "Ready yourself and order the Penguin Book of Classical Myths for the kids to obsess over when they've finished watching." Hell yeah, we're going to get those books sales up. You know what I'm saying? Zach Pope says from Zach Pope Reviews, "Fans of Percy Jackson, rejoice! The series is not perfect, but it is pretty damn great. Possibly the next generation's Harry Potter for younger audiences." You are goddamn right, Zach. Okay? The actually deserving child who is an orphan, who gets orphaned, kind of, and gets sent to a magical school, kind of, book franchise, is going to become the biggest franchise in media franchise in the world. You're goddamn right. This Percy Jackson's turn should have been originally. They fucked up his movie, but it's okay. It's okay. Watch out, J.K. Rowling, coming for your stupid British face. Losing my mind over here. Danielle Salzman, Sozy at the movies. What does she have to say? The fact that author Rick Riordan is involved with the TV series adaptation of Percy Jackson and the Olympians should be reason enough to give the series a chance. You're goddamn right, Danielle! Jazane Sophia says, from Marvelous Geeks Media, if the first 2 episodes of Percy Jackson and the Olympians Season 1 are any indication of the show's future, then a new generation will have a brilliant storm of well-written adventures in store for them. Oh my god. Okay, what does this fucking piece of shit Dan Rubins from Slant Magazine have to say? Largely missing from the series is the coherent world building and quicksilver pacing of the novels. Oh, really? Really, bro? Really? Maybe you're just not patient enough. Maybe you're just not patient enough to let the story play out. Maybe you should just let the story play out. Okay? What, you want big bang action, bing bang, boom, boom, boom. What, is that what you want from your shows, fucking Dan Rubins? Yeah, maybe you should let the show play out. Why don't you? And then Matthew Creeth from The Wrap says, the writing is quick-witted. The action is stellar, and making Percy's journey an episodic tale helps to propel the young character forward in exciting directions. Matthew Creeth, I hopefully will not hopefully will not be able to agree more when I watch it. The fuck is this coming out, actually? I don't even know. Looking it up live in real time. Percy Jackson Olympians release date December 20th. Oh my gosh, in 5 days? On next Wednesday, next week. Oh my gosh, guys. Ready your calendar. Oh, it's coming out on Disney Plus and Hulu simultaneously. Holy mother of Jesus Christ. Guys, listen. Percy Jackson may not have started yet, but this show has ended. I suck at this. Let me know what you thought about any and all of the topics in the comments down below. Get this video to 6 million likes. That is not a request. That is a demand. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.